Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our podcast. I am so excited because today we have another special guest. His name is Tim Aulbach, and I am grateful that you're here. Thank you so much for coming and spending some time with us because we want to hear your story. Just a little bit about Tim, and I know he's going to give you much more information, but here he is the owner and also the principal broker of the land store and has spent decades helping shape E-Town to what it is today. So I'm excited. I came here 15 years ago, maybe 16 years ago, and I tell you, going down Ring Road looks quite different than it did 15 years ago.
Yeah, E-Town's it's really changed.
It has changed quite a bit, hasn't it? And I know myself and my patients, we love E-Town. We love our community. I speak to them all the time about it. And, you know, we have a certain closeness. I'm from Lexington, much bigger. When I came to E-Town, I'm like, this does feel like a community. And even though there has been quite a bit of growth, I still love the fact that it still has a community feel to it. But you have been such a game changer here in this community for years now on the development and the retail and the just the growth and the projects. So I would love to know, though, your story. I'm just going to start from the very beginning.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome.
And welcome. Actually, my first podcast I've ever done. But thank you. So
you're welcome.
I moved here in 1981. I was raised on a farm in central Indiana. I'm one of 13 children, and my mother and dad bought a farm here in east of Elizabethtown, and moved here and started farming, and decided I wanted to get into real estate business, and got my real estate license, and went to work at that time Crane Auction Company in real estate, and I actually met my wife there.
Wow.
My wife was a school teacher at Fort Knox, and I met my wife at a real estate company. She got her license the first summer that I was working there, and we started dating and ended up marrying a year later. So, best decision I ever made. That's right there.
Wonderful. How many years have you been married now?
We'll be married 39, June the 20th.
Beautiful.
So, and most of my success is because of my wife. So.
I love that.
So.
I love that.
You know, it's we've all, we always put each other first, but she's all the time. She's really more of a person that pushing me. Sometimes when I'm hesitant, she's the one that, let's go on and do it, and let's try it. So,
I love that. I love how, right off the bat, you credited your wife, and knowing that, a lot of times it's teamwork. Sometimes we see the person in the front, the forefront, but throughout this whole period, your wife was definitely your strength. Yeah.
Well, if you're not together on it, sometimes, my wife gives 95% most of the time. She's the one carrying all the mail behind me.
Yes.
And then sometimes, the ball falls on me where I have to, but she's always, right there for me. So
I love that.
So, and then we have two daughters. And my youngest daughter, Lindsay, works in our business. My oldest daughter, she's a pharmacist with UK, and she's my oldest daughter's got two boys.
Okay.
And my youngest daughter, she has 4 children and expecting a 5th.
Oh, so, wow. Okay.
So, she works in our real estate business, and very fortunate that she wanted to join our business. So
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And in regards to your youth, what was that first investment, or what was it that triggered you to know this is exactly my vein, this is what I want to do? Well,
when you first start in real estate business, back in the early 80s, it was very difficult because the interest rates were so high. And I found out real quick that I wasn't going to be a residential real estate, which residential is, I wish I could have made a living in there. It's a great industry, but, it's very hard when you're coming off a farm, and being able to go out and show women houses or family homes. I really didn't know anything about residential real estate.
Wow.
So I got, when I went to work as an auctioneer and a real estate agent with Crane, we handled a lot of agricultural rural properties, and I just knew my fit there. Mm-hmm. And I stayed there about 2 years, and then went to work for Chris McGee. They owned a company called Kentucky Land Company, mm-hmm. and I learned the land development there.
Okay.
And I really, it was my fit. I really excited mm-hmm. about going out and buying property and developing it, and it was a great fit for me. And I've been in the land business a little over 40 years now.
40 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's just growing up on the farm, I guess, and understanding land, how big a piece of land is, how the contours, soil types and all. It just, that was just the right fit going into the development part of it. So
that's great. And I'm sure, especially with real estate, I think some people, they may get discouraged a little bit because they feel like that, they got their license, right? So now they're going to make money.
Yeah,
they're going to. So does that doesn't always work like that, does it?
Well, it takes such a long time to build a clientele and to figure it out. If you're starting out and you have a spouse and a family, it's very difficult mm-hmm. to get. If you got my wife taught school and also sold real estate, so that's really gave me the leeway to be able to get started in real estate. Mm-hmm. If I didn't have that time frame where my wife had a steady income and had health insurance and all,
yes.
I probably wouldn't be in the real estate business because you have to have steady income so you can support your family. So,
right.
So by her having a steady income, that allowed me, it took the pressure off of me where
yes.
I could focus and actually be able to, so we could survive. Mm-hmm. So the first 3 or 4 years of our married life, we depended on my wife's job. So,
wow.
but and it worked,
Yeah.
And then when my kids come along, by then when our second daughter was born, my wife was able to take off a few years, and then she went back to work. And then when my oldest daughter was about a freshman in high school, and then she left teaching and joined our real estate business. So.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So, so 3 years in, you probably know, okay, I know this is for me.
Right,
I know I have a gift for this. So what was like your first investment, like your big investment?
Well, actually, my first investment, I made it with Chris McGee. I bought a piece of property out off Miller Creek Road. I believe it was about 60 acres. And Chris helped, he done all he put up all the cash, and I done all the work, subdivided the farms, and done all the legwork on it. Mm-hmm. And it worked out very well, and that's how I got started, through partnerships. Okay. And I worked for Kentucky Land probably about 4.5, 5 years, and then I left the Kentucky Land Company and started my own company called The Land Store. I had another partner that I started with. His name was William Hudson from Boston. And we had a great partnership for about 22, 23 years. And then when I got to a certain size, I was wanting to go into more of a commercial business. Mm-hmm. And Billy was at the time he was wanting to retire. And he come to me, he said, "Tim, I'm holding you back." He said, "I'd like to slow down." And so we split up our partnership, and we've remained real close friends until he died. And so,
wow.
A great mentor, and really, where a lot of my success come from is good partnerships.
I love that, and you mentioned mentor also, because I've always been taught, wherever you plan on going in life, like wherever you plan on being, find someone that's already made it,
right,
or been there, and that you can learn from them, because it's hard to kind of do that on your own.
Well,
right?
you know, if you're going to go into business and you want to surround yourself with successful, smart people. And I've had great partnerships, and all my partners have been local business people. And most times you all think alike. Partnerships, you know, that does very well. People think alike, and
Wow.
everything works well that way. So.
How long did it take for you to find like your partnership? I mean,
It seems like partners it just naturally come. You know, my wife always told me, if it's going to be, or if it's meant to be, it'll happen. You know, and it seems like when Mr. Hudson retired, and that was at the time I was building my first major project was Cool Springs at the corner of Ring Road and Shepherdsville, or North Mile Street. And that's when I'd done that. Was the first major project I'd done, just me and my wife. And right after that, I started partnering with Howard Pence Company. They're a large construction government contractor here in town, and we've been partners. We don't partner on everything, but we do a lot of partnerships with the Howard Pence Company, which is a local family. It's been in business probably close to 60 years.
Wow.
And just good people, good value, you know, got good values and very trusting people.
I was going to say trust is a big issue, a big factor, isn't it? Yeah.
Right.
Very big factor.
And, you know, just surround yourself with great people. You know, we don't have a large staff. We have a small staff. Janet Webb, that's been with us for 33 years now. You know, she started with me right out of high school, and she's a close family friend with her mother, and my wife was best friends, been friends for 50 years. And so, you know, Janet's been with me all that time, and, you know, she actually runs our daily business there. So, and then I have, you know, just a great staff working for us. But we have Daryl McKinney, our superintendent, who runs all our construction, and you know, people just work, and really got my back every day out there. So,
I love that. Got your back. That's big. I know, especially in the entrepreneurial world, you know, loyalty is huge.
It's everything. You know, and you have people tell you that you know, will point out your mistakes. There's nothing wrong with being pointed, and you learn from your mistakes. You don't learn anything from, you know, when you have an easy deal and you make easy money. You know, you learn from all your mistakes in business. And people say that haven't made any mistakes, the reason they haven't done anything. You know,
that is definitely true.
So
mistakes are going to happen, right?
Yeah, you're going to make mistakes. So,
Yes.
So.
Well, that's a really great question then. Can you think of one mistake that, and you don't have to go in full detail, but can you think of one mistake that almost probably cost you your career?
You know, when I built Cool Springs.
Oh.
You know, at one time, me and my wife lived in a mobile home, and the day we went to sign a mortgage for Cool Springs to put it on permanent financing, or before we started that, it was actually before we started Cool Springs, we borrowed $8.5 million that day, the largest project we had done. And I told my wife, I said, you know, if this doesn't work, we're going to be broke. and my wife said, you know, we lived in a mobile home once, we can go back to a mobile home.
Wow.
So, we had nothing to lose if we just worked hard. So we started that in 2006. We got it finished in the end of 2007, and we went on permanent financing in March of 2008. So, you know, we all remember 2008, the financial crisis hit, and in November of 2008, I think the stock market went down 1 week 6,000 or 7,000 points.
Wow.
And I wasn't real sure if we would survive through that, because, you know, here we just done this large investment, but we had a lot of local tenants, And so a lot of them would come to me and say, hey, we're having a tough time surviving. And so we would we readjusted their rents. We'd remove rents to the rears. And I told them, just pay what they could. And then so we just got to survive through it best we can. Some of their business didn't survive. It was tough to see families go through that. And but we made it through it. And then one fortunate thing is when the three doctors come to me and wanted to put in the EDI, the imaging center.
Yes.
And then when they built the imaging center, that stabilized my property there, and we started filling it up with medical space. And Cool Springs turned out to be one of our best investments we ever made. So, but that was so close. If we wouldn't have made permanent financing when we did, a lot of projects got their financing pulled from them. They couldn't because the banks got in trouble, and they couldn't put projects on permanent financing because they was getting pressure from the feds, and so they called people's loans. Well, I couldn't have raised $8.5 million that short of time. We was on permanent financing, and we made every payment on time.
On time.
And so that was, it turned out good for us, but that was as close as we could have been wiped out there. So.
And that was really, if you think about it, it was just in 2008.
2008.
I mean, it seems a long time ago, but really not.
No, and so what's 18 years ago?
Yeah. Yes. Wow, because I remember coming, so 15 years ago when I came, Cool Springs was still fairly new.
Yes, yes.
As a matter of fact, that was one of the first offices that I practiced that. You remember that?
Yeah, very
Cool
excited
Springs,
when you come there. And your all's practice done so well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was such a beautiful property. But there was a few things you mentioned within that first project. Well, one of your projects with Cool Springs was your wife believed in you. And so the fact that she says, well, we've been here before. We've had a mobile home before. That's amazing because she was ready to go regardless.
Right. That's when someone believes 100%.
Wow.
When you go, you ask your wife to go sign an $8.5 million deal. It's not every day. It's not buying groceries. So
she believed in it. She believed in the mission.
Right.
Yeah. The vision. So you all both were visionaries.
Yeah. Well, when we'd go on vacation, we still do. When we go on vacation, we go out looking at other projects. You'd think we'd want to get away from real estate.
Right, and just relax.
But how we come up with a lot of times with how we want to design a building or how we want a project to look is by looking at other people's projects and seeing what other people's doing, and for probably 3 years before we even started Cool Springs, if my wife was traveling, she was taking pictures of buildings, trying to come up with the idea how we was going to come up with. So my wife was actually all in on Cool Springs and how we designed it. So.
Wow, I love that. For those of you who don't know where Cool Springs is, it's a really prominent, popular area in E-Town off of Ring Road, and so it is built up very well. It's highly sought after, and really all types of businesses in there.
Yeah, we have
the medical and
have quite a bit of medical there. Yeah. We have Just Prescription Store. It's actually our first tenant, and it's kind of a neat story how we got Just Prescription. Brad Mills was he was a local pharmacist owned Just Prescription Store, and he was actually Lindsay's volleyball coach. Wow. He coached volleyball at E-Town High School on the side, giving back to our community. And my wife and his wife become friends, sitting at going to ball games all the time. And my wife was telling Sarah, his wife, that we was getting ready to build this new project, and she said we'd love to have a drugstore. And so my wife made that deal at the ball game.
At the ball game.
At a ball game. And when Brad retired, they done an article on him with News Enterprise, and he mentioned how we made that partnership there, and that was actually really a big hold for us, having the drugstore on the corner right there.
Huge. And
the medical actually come in, and then EDI come and.
Yeah. It's just a perfect fit, actually.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Really perfect fit.
So.
Wow. And I have a lot of patients that actually use that drugstore still today. Very good location, too. And you also mentioned about the fact that, even at a basketball game, even out of town, even on a vacation. So this was, this was y'all's passion.
It was.
It was passion driven, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
We, well, when you put everything you got on the line, you eat it, drink it, sleep it. It's everything. It's got to be a success, or it's going to take you out. So.
Yeah. I think some people stop too soon. They have this vision, right? And they have this dream, and they know that they have the capabilities, but they let maybe circumstances stop them too soon. What would you say to that person that...
Nobody wants to fail, but, that's where you learn all your lessons through failure. And one project we done right after me and my wife was married, I had this brainstorm idea that I was going to move a house. So I bought a lot in St. Matthews, Louisville, great neighborhood, and a very sought after area. So I buy a home in Louisville, have moved to a lot. And me and my wife, after school, we'd go to Louisville, we'd work on this house and got it remodeled, and it looked beautiful. But it was a moved house. So every time we show it, we had to tell this house was moved here. It was not a new home. It looked like a new home. And we done all that work. It took us probably about 4.5 months to do this work. And we ended up selling the property for $1,000 profit. So we knew we didn't want to be in the house moving business from then on.
Right,
so, so it would have been real easily to give up on that project. And instead of seeing that project through, is and turned it back to a bank or whatever. But we just hung in there until we got it sold, and we ended up making $1,000 on. But I'm telling you that was a great lesson. So everything don't always work the way you want, but usually there's a reason. There's a reason for it. So
it seems like working from your strengths also, knowing where your strengths are, even in the real estate business. It's such a big business, right? There's so many avenues you can take with even real estate. Yeah.
Real estate's been fantastic for me and my family, but one thing about real estate, it's, I guess, all business. You get out of it exactly what you put in it. Whatever business it'll take care of you if you take care of it.
Wow. Wow. I love that. So tenacity and just, being, I know it may take overnight, all-nighters.
Yes.
Less vacations, right?
Yeah.
Weekends.
There were several years we didn't have time to take a vacation. It was just part of you have to do what you have to do. Yeah. Besides our real estate business, we used to have an auction business. We sold heavy equipment, farm machinery, and there was a time I was carrying 2 cell phones and a pager. We was so busy with our real estate and machinery business, and there was weeks we'd be getting ready for a large auction. We would work, 20 hours out of the 24 hours in the day trying to so we'd have everything ready for this big sale. And we had a big sale planned on 9/11. Well, 9/11 happened, I think, on a Tuesday or Wednesday. We had a large sale planned for that following Saturday. And we at that time we was buying most of the machinery we sold. We bought. So here we was getting ready to this big sale, and we had all this machinery bought and lined up ready to auction, and we couldn't decide if we was going to cancel the auction because that week of it, how the turmoil was, people was in unrest and unsettled. So my wife suggested we go ahead and have the sale because we had the advertisements all out, and she went out and bought all kind of banners and flags, and and when people come in, she would give them each as they registered for that sale. She would give them all a flag, and all, and or she had a pin that had an American flag, anything with American flag, and we had one of our best auctions that week. People just, our country come together during that time, So you never know, what's going to be thrown at you, things out of your control, but you got to keep swinging at it. So
I love that. You also mentioned something about, during the Cool Springs, when there were tenants that really couldn't, keep up with their payments, you still had compassion on them.
Well, them tenants is what pays our bills.
Yes.
They're our customers, our people that lease from us, and we tried to be the best we could because they was going through the same hardships we were.
Yes.
And when you look at, if you've got a bunch of vacant buildings, they don't pay zero. So if you can work and try to save a person's business, but more than likely their whole life is on the line too when they start up a new startup business. And some of them made it, some of them didn't make it, and it was tough. And it was tough to see people go through that because some of the families might have lost their homes over it. So.
Wow, that is amazing. I just realized, just me myself being an entrepreneur in entrepreneurship now, and I just realized that you have to treat people well.
You do if you're going to be.
You have to treat people good.
You're right.
If you want to stay in business, you got to treat people good.
Well, you got to slip your feet in their shoes, And sometimes, sometimes you got to make that hard decision. You can't go on any further. So. Yeah. But if you put your feet in their shoes and try to think about how, what they're going through too, and if there's some way you could resolve or help them get through over the hump, they'll be good clients for a long time. We've had a lot of clients that's been repeat business is your best business. So
I love that repeat business. Yeah. Yes, I realized that, and people love that. They remember when you treat them well. They remember, right. And they'll refer people to you, and because you need them. I mean, you need them also. You need them if you want to thrive in your business. You need people.
Yeah.
So, yes, that's wonderful. I would love for you to, E-Town is growing, but I would love for you to give some projects that, dating back from whenever you want to, but projects that you have done in E-Town over the years to most recent.
Well, our Cool Springs, which we've talked about, and then a few years ago, I had a partnership with Charlie Wise. Charlie Wise, local businessman, a great guy and a great friend of mine. We bought the Crucible Steel plant. It's located off of Crucible Drive, and they made magnets. It was a German company here, and we had an opportunity to buy that property. We took it, and we changed it and cleaned it up, and I think Metalsa is in that building. We sold that project a few years ago to Page Harden, and they put Metalsa. They got a manufacturer there. And our next project, me and Charlie done, was the Coca-Cola plant. We bought that. It was shut down. The windows had been broken out. The roof was leaking, and we went in, changed it, put some retail in front of, and now the bridal warehouse is there.
Oh, yes.
And we put Fisher's Auto Parts there and put some retail in front of it, and then Bridal Warehouse put a dry cleaners in there. They have a large dry cleaning business there.
Yes.
And then we TAC Transportation, we leased the building to them in the back, and they have the transportation buses here in our community. Okay. Some other projects we've done, we own Town Point, the center there in front of Lowe's. Okay. And we have we got multiple projects here in town. The Waterside place, we bought that years ago. That's where Pools Plus used to be years ago. So.
And then the mall, the Townie Mall? Yeah,
we bought the mall in December the 4th of 2023, and it's one of our largest projects we've took on, and it's been quite an undertaking, but we're hoping to have it finished probably next spring, late, probably May of 2027. So we have a lot of things going on there. We're hoping to get the home goods store opened in October, and awesome. Then we had cut the mall.
I love home goods, so
yeah.
I'll be in there shopping for sure.
Yeah. We got Sierra coming in. That's another TJ Maxx brand, and we actually took the mall and cut it in half, I say we're demalling it. Mm-hmm. We're going to make a strip center out of it, and we're putting all of our small shops in the promenade, and we're building a new water feature out in front, and then we have Vision Works and Bath and Body, Spencer's Gifts, American Eagle, and we have a new store coming in called The Buckle. It's a high-end blue jean store.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah.
Store for my teenage daughters. So
and we're hoping to get our lease finished on. We're still working with Victoria's Secret, hoping we can get their lease finished in Finish Line. So we have another big box that we haven't got. I can't announce it yet, but we're real close to signing our last big box, and then we'll be at about 96% full. So
that's wonderful. So those who want to step out in the entrepreneurship world, or want to start a business, or want to help out in someone or a family member that wants to start a business, what advice would you have for them starting or moving forward? What would be the advice would you have for them in this market?
Well, today's Elizabethtown was just voted one of the best places in the U.S. to live.
Yes.
So we got everything here, great things happening around Elizabethtown. And even though we've had some delays with the Ford plant, but Ford's made a big investment here. So I still think there's going to be great things come with the Ford plant. And but we're building a new Kroger Center out on the corner of Ring Road and Patriot Parkway, and that's Kroger's. I think they said they invested $40 million in that new store. Wow. Probably will employ close to 300 people. There's just opportunities every day as our city's growing. We have a great city, and it's still a small town, but we're just making leaps and bounds here in our town. So, if you're a self-motivated person, that and you're a hard worker and you want to dedicate, don't go into business if you don't think you're not going to work 7 days a week and 20 hours a day.
Yes.
If you got that type of work ethic, you're going to be successful. But if you think you're going to go into business and someone's going to run your business, it's not going to work for you. So.
Yeah. Wow, that's great advice. Another question is, what as you stand here now, what would you tell your younger self, your 25-year-old self? What would you go back and tell yourself at that point? What you know now and the experiences you picked up along the way.
Hindsight's 20/20,
Yes.
So it's I don't know that I would do a whole lot of things different because the mistakes I've made, I've learned so much from it.
Yes.
I didn't like it at the time, and I've had plenty of mistakes. I know a lot of people think that everything I do is successful. Well, that's because they never got to read about the ones that wasn't, So, and thank God they didn't get to read about it, So, it's, it's at 25. I didn't have anything, and I was lucky. Again, when I met my wife, my life started coming together. I didn't have no focus at 25, so if you're 20, I wish I was 25 again, But if you just work hard and surround yourself with successful people,
yes,
and people that are, that's done something, people that's had them hard knocks,
Oh, definitely.
So
definitely. I can attest to that. I just want to hang around people that don't count me out.
Yeah.
Don't count me out because of what you think I have or what you think my abilities are. Because, I know from within that as far as being a physician, that's all I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Even when I was 7 years old. But I've had some obstacles.
Yeah.
I remember, going through a hurricane, Category 4 hurricane. I had the opportunity to go to school in multiple areas. I was in I went to school in New York, and I did some of my training in England, in London, know, and I did some training in different parts of the States. And in the Caribbean, I was just everywhere, which I loved because I felt like I was able to just gather a lot of different ways of practicing. But when I was in the Caribbean, there was a hurricane, and they said no hurricane had been there for 40 years. And I'm like, okay. My mom was like, I think you're going to be safe going here. I was much younger then and in my medical training. And 40 years, hadn't had a hurricane. Well, lo and behold, when I was there was a hurricane.
Yeah.
There was no way to get off the island at that point because the hurricane would be there in 48 hours. Yeah. They gave us some warning, but just not enough to exit the island. So I know I had to buckle down, and I'll tell you, it was such an ordeal. I mean, the hurricane, I know it lasted a good 8 hours.
Yeah.
It felt like it anyway. And I tell you, after that, I think that was a big life changer for me. I knew I had the passion, right? I knew I had the work ethic. I was going to be this doctor. But I realized, after that hurricane, we were all uprooted. We had to come off the island, and we actually had to finish up our studies in New York. So you're talking about a beautiful island, okay, looking over at the beach while you're studying, to being in Long Island. Now, I love New York, but I don't like cold weather. Yeah. And that was such a transition, and there I was told that there were some students that just, we were earlier in our medical school years, they just could not push through that. And it was enough to deter them and send them back home.
Well, if you hadn't had much adversity in your life,
yes,
it's hard to get through a crisis.
Yes, yes.
You don't want adversity for anyone, but sometimes adversity brings the best out of people.
Yes.
And but if you've got a passion to be a doctor or a real estate broker or a minister, you think about the ministers during the COVID, what a toll it took on them, as well as healthcare workers. No one's seen that coming. Probably no one would go into that field if they knew they had to face that. What a time. But if you got that passion, some days in my business, there's days that I want to pull my hair too, but every day I get up, I look forward to going to work, Yes. And when you get to look forward to going to work, it's really not that, it's not work, It's something you enjoy,
Enjoy doing. I know.
So.
Yeah, sometimes got out of bed is rough, but once I'm here, it's like, I'm good. I'm in my domain.
You're in your element, you're ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you see so many people are trapped in a profession that maybe they went to school and they had got an education, and they feel like you're trapped in that education. And an education is just kind of an add-to tool.
Yes.
And once you get a family, a lot of times you can't change. And then you go through life, you're miserable.
Yes.
Yes. So, which I was very fortunate. Here I found something I could do and make a living at, and I enjoyed doing so.
And had a wonderful wife to support you and the family. So that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That is wonderful. Yes. And I think that what life is about, balance. There's got to be some balance. Even as busy as I know you are busy, but how do you find balance in your life? What are some key ways of keeping you balanced?
Well, my wife probably says I need to take another lesson on balance. But when it gets to that point, we take time off, and we'll take a trip, maybe, in October, a lot of times we'll go on a week's vacation or so. But we have a farm that we enjoy going to, and we take our grandkids out there and go to our farm and just, just get away from things. Sometimes, it's nothing but parking across the street from a project and just sitting there and looking and trying to figure out, taking some time out and just trying to figure out the problems we got going on.
Definitely.
But, or sometimes me and my wife just get in a car and start driving and start talking. Because when you're driving, it seems like we get more accomplished taking a little road trip somewhere, so.
Yeah. I love that. I think my connection is nature. You know, sometimes I and my husband, we'll get on a nature trail and just walk. And just walk, just hearing nature and seeing water. I think it just does something for my soul. It really does, and it sometimes because we're human, we just get stressed out.
Right.
And I think everybody has to have an outlet. And as sometimes tell my patients, find something that actually makes you happy or makes you feel like you can have an outlet that's safe. We want healthy outlets now. We don't want smoking. We don't want. we want healthy outlets, and so but walking can be one of them. Driving, going for a ride. So balance is key, and I'm still working on that myself, even at 40 years old. So.
Well, sometimes I can have a pretty rough day at work, and you can go to my grandson's little ball game, and you forget about it. You're watching that ball game, and you see him catch a ball, or they get a good hit, or and you get down to that ball game, you feel so good, and you walk, and a lot of that stress is gone, Or I go out on my farm and get on my tractor but just do some bush hogging, and you get your mind on something, totally different. So, but I don't know. It's everybody, I guess, has their own way of dealing with stress.
Absolutely.
One thing for me, luckily we got good people working for us that helps with that. So
I love that, and I'm just so happy to be a part of Elizabethtown for 15, 16 years. I just want to say thank you for just never giving up, like you mentioned, just being persistent and persevering, because Elizabethtown is better because of it. Well, your development, your ideas, your visions. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And the person, even at whatever stage of life, you could have a curveball thrown at you. Even in our business, we run a successful business, but you never know what curveball, what financial crisis could happen. A person may run on hard times, but you still have your wife and my family, and that's the only thing that matters.
I love that.
So,
grateful heart.
I don't want to, I don't want to go back where I began, but if I had to, good.
Not afraid, aren't you?
No, you just, a person make it somehow, So.
I think, and I believe that with all my heart, is you'll eventually find exactly where you need to be. You'll end up there with hard work, perseverance, patience, and also giving yourself some grace.
Well, I'm not a real religious man, but I believe in God, If I didn't have God on my side, it's...
Absolutely. So. I believe that 100%. Yeah, he's been good to me, for sure.
He's blessed me.
Oh, yeah. It's been better than good to me. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to many more developments you do in E-Town.
Well,
I'll be looking for them.
Well, Dr. Watson, it's been a pleasure, and I appreciate you asking me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.